In 1987, Steve Martin's character got stuck in the worst travel nightmare imaginable. But if he tried this trip today, would it be any faster? Would it be any easier? Or would he still be stranded in nowhere town, fighting for a rental car and freezing on the side of the highway? The shocking truth is, planes, trains, and automobiles isn't a time capsule of the 1980s travel. It's a reminder that nothing has really improved. If anything, travel has only gotten worse. Steve Martin's biggest mistake was thinking his flight from New York to Chicago would be simple. Back in 1987, that flight took about 2 hours. Today, still 2 hours on paper. But throw in security lines, overbooking, delays, and last-minute cancellations, and your total travel time could be double. He didn't have to take off his shoes, dump out his water bottle, or get flagged for extra screening because a machine thought his belt was suspicious. What should be a 2-hour flight can easily turn into an all-day ordeal. And at least he made it onto the plane. Today, your flight might get delayed because, quote, the crew timed out, or you're waiting on an overworked air traffic controller. The only thing that's faster now, the speed at which airlines cancel your flight and blame the weather. After his flight was canceled, Steve Martin tried the next best option, a train. Back then, taking a train across the Midwest was already slow and unreliable, but today it's somehow worse. In the 1940s, you could take a train from New York to Chicago in 16 hours. In 2024, it takes 19. That's right, some train routes are slower today than they were 80 years ago. Meanwhile, Japan was already running bullet trains in the 1980s, and they've only gotten faster. In France, you got from Paris to Marseille over 400 miles in just 3 hours. Steve Martin could have used that. Instead, he was stuck on an overcrowded, slow-moving train that got him nowhere. And guess what? There's still the reality for most Americans. With planes and trains failing him, Steve Martin had one last option, renting a car. And here's where things really haven't changed. In planes, trains, and automobiles, the car he reserved wasn't there. In 2021, the same thing happened on a national scale when a rental car shortage left travelers stranded. Prices skyrocketed. Some people were paying $500 a day for a Toyota Corolla, and if he had tried Uber, he'd get hit with surge pricing and a cancellation when his driver decided his trip wasn't worth it. Even driving yourself isn't any better. In 1987, traffic was bad. In 2024, it's worse, with more cars on the road, endless construction, and GPS telling you to take the next exit. That leads you into even more traffic. Planes, trains, and automobiles should feel outdated. Instead, it feels like it could happen today. The way we move hasn't gone any faster. It's just gotten more expensive, more frustrating, and more dependent on unreliable technology. If planes, trains, and automobiles was made today, it wouldn't need a new script. Just swap out the rental car for an overbooked Airbnb, add a flight cancellation text, and you've got the same movie. Because in nearly 4 decades, nothing has changed. So the next time your flight is delayed, your train is late, and your Uber driver cancels on you, just remember, Steve Martin went through the same thing in 1987, and that's not funny. That's failure.